All right. So, how to not destroy your new real estate career before it's even begun. So,
with 3 examples.
with three examples.
Welcome to the Real Estate Game Plan Podcast, where we bring you inspiration, actionable steps, and knowledge to build your game plan to take your real estate business to the next level. My name is Demo.
And I'm Derek, and we are licensed real estate brokers and your hosts for this podcast. Let's get started. Your image is everything in this industry, your reputation. And these are mistakes that not only new agents make, certainly agents of all experience levels, I can assure you, have made these mistakes, but we don't want you to make them. And the first one is really text messaging
Yeah.
and notices. As an agent, and we live in a digital society, all of us text. It can be a great form of communication, not always the best form of communication in a real estate transaction, especially when it's delivering notice from a buyer or a seller. Technically, text is not a formal means of communication of notice in the GAR contract anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the example that I will share with you is where a buyer's agent makes an offer to purchase a property, and the listing agent happened to be newly licensed, but sent a text back to the buyer's agent. And the text message was shared with me. So I actually had an opportunity to see this. Did not work at Solid Source. If you're a Solid Source agent, don't worry. But the text was something along the lines of, congratulations, all the little emojis, super cute. You have won. Your buyer is the one. Can't wait to work with you and go to closing. So agent, of course, is excited. Another mistake. So these can have trickle down effects, right?
Yes.
So then the agent goes on to tell the buyer, we got this. Let's go to dinner tonight, whatever. And a few hours later, so you probably know where we're going to go with this, right? So listing agent calls this time and says, I'm so sorry, but a cash offer came in and it's 20 grand higher. The seller signed it, maybe next time.
Mm.
So buyer's agent, buyer is, they're unhappy, they're sad. And so then everybody's wondering, what can be done? Is this legal, et cetera, et cetera. And the seller is free to accept a contract at any time before they've accepted another one. They could withdraw a counter offer even and accept another one, right? Is the communication for the accepted offer should just be emailing back the accepted offer.
Mm-hmm.
Until you get a signed offer, you do not have a
Mm-hmm.
contract. And the
Mm-hmm.
time it took the agent to send the text message, that time could have been used elsewhere, or it could have been worded differently. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the seller has said, and this is something I stress to new agents too, is your client is saying you are a bit of a filter, you were the agent for the party, but you aren't the party, right? So my seller has stated that they will sign it when they get home tonight, but as maybe if I'm the buyer's agent, the listing agent has said that the seller has said that they will sign the contract when they get home tonight. But until we have the binding contract, we do not have a contract. So
Mm-hmm.
just be careful. You don't have a contract until you have one. Keep everything in writing, and text messages are not a formal means of communication anyway.
Yeah. I bet that celebration dinner did not taste good once I got that news, right? When the
Absolutely.
buyer. So yeah, I mean, great points. Text is not notice. And then like you were stating, the agent who is sending, that notice is also putting themselves in a bad spot, right? Because now, if we're talking about reputation in the industry, now that agent who they told, hey, your client won the deal, now they're coming back and their seller saying, well, no, we found this in the steps, or we saw this thing that we couldn't really focus on because like you said, they were, in the car or doing something else, and they were, briefly reading over it. So in writing.
In writing, and it's
Signatures in writing, right?
absolutely, absolutely in writing, or we do not have a contract, and it's
Hmm.
a small world. What's going to happen when that buyer's agent sees another listing by that listing agent?
Hmm.
It's just not the way you want to make your debut or the reputation that you want to have for sure.
Certainly. So text can be great. It can be great with clients, with setting up showings, with all of those type things. And speaking of setting up showings and having that happen, Derek, let's lead into number two.
Let's do so. And this again, new agent mistake. New agents are definitely not the only ones that do this, but when we make an appointment, so let me start this way maybe. When we go to show a property, how do I show a property? Most properties are going to require an appointment. We look in the MLS to see what the showing instructions are to know if the home's vacant and we can show it anytime, which is one thing. If it's vacant and you can show it anytime, then no big deal, right? But most of the time, we're going to make an appointment, which means that a seller is going to generally go out of their way to make their home picture perfect, first
Mhm.
impression ready. The agent is also going to do their part. And so they are super excited about the showing. And so you're in the car with the buyer. If you're in the car with the buyer, most agents these days are going to meet them there. But for whatever reason, buyer comes into the community and they realize right off the bat, ooh, this is maybe not the area that I thought I was gonna be in. Maybe it's a little bit too far from work
Mhm.
or whatever area I like to shop in,
Maybe it's on a
and
hill, maybe it's in a
maybe
valley, you couldn't tell from the pictures,
who
tons of things,
knows?
right?
Who knows? And you don't wanna see the house, and
Mhm.
so then the buyer calls you and says, "I don't even wanna go in."
Mhm.
Um, Communication is so important because at least cancel the showing. At that point,
Mhm.
if you're pulling into the neighborhood, I would venture to call
Mhm.
the other agent and just say, "Look, I'm so sorry, but my buyer is saying they don't want to go in the house." You can't make your buyer see a house they don't want to see,
Mhm.
right? A lot of times, you will go ahead and see the property anyway because you don't ever know. Maybe that first impression you had of that neighborhood or whatever,
Or the front of the house
front of the
once you got
house,
there or
you
something.
go in the house and you realize maybe this is the perfect one for you. So in a lot of cases, you're going to go ahead and go in. But if you cannot, at least cancel the showing. At least let the other agent know
Mhm.
because if you don't communicate at all,
Mhm.
ooh, that's not going to make a good impression.
Yeah, definitely, Derek. And it kind of brings up something else that we hit on in a lot of our training is when you're showing those buyers, when you're getting the list of properties that they want to see, or ones that you send to them, and they say that looks great. Let's set up a showing. A lot of times, as the agent, you can do a lot of homework before they even get in a car. You get in a car, you drive out to the property, and figure out they don't even like the elevation, or there's a power line behind there, or whatever, right? And one of the most useful tools for that is Google Street View, Google Maps. You can zoom in and out. There's a rock quarry right behind the neighborhood, or it's right off of the interstate, and they're looking for a quiet place. Pull it up on Google Maps. Let them pull it up. If there's a street view available, look at that. Be able to listen to your clients of what they want. Take that information and you look at the Google Street View or the Google Maps and say, wait a minute, I know you don't want to live at the front of the neighborhood, or be beside an airport, or have this noise from here, or live lower than the street level, or whatever the case is. You've done that homework. Now you've saved the seller from getting their home prepared, the listing agent from getting excited, the buyer driving there, you driving there. A lot of people are affected in one showing, and we want you to do that because your client will also appreciate that. Thank you, because we were going to go look at that property. Thank you because of this and that. And so, it saves time, but it also, again, back to the professionalism which we're encompassing in this discussion. That really helps that as well. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And our third example really deals with writing offers and special stipulations. And just be careful not to get in a hurry and write your own special stipulations. If you don't have to write your own special stipulation, then don't write your own special stipulation. The Georgia Association of Realtors, GAR, has a library of commonly used special stipulations. We also have, if you are a solid source agent, we have a solid source library with the trending special stipulations that we know about. The gap clause and so forth are going to be their escalation clause. Those are stipulations that have been written by our attorneys,
Hmm.
approved by our attorneys. More maybe they came from Seth Weissman himself. So those stipulations are going to be healthy enough. They're going to be include enough information to protect everybody.
Hmm.
When we get in a hurry and we write things, and I've done separate videos on this too, kind of talking about it, but buyer agrees to pay the difference between the purchase price and the appraised value. Period. That's it. Everything's good when it's good.
Hmm.
So seller's happy, buyer's agent's happy. Yes, we finally got one, but then later the property doesn't appraise. So I hate to think about worst case. I know that sounds super negative, but when it comes to special stipulations, I think we have to.
Yep.
And probably the sky is not the limit. The buyer probably can't pay any difference. So you probably want to have a cap there. And just one more thing is whatever your cap is going to be, if you're using an appraisal gap, maybe it's $15,000. The buyer should be able to back that up with
Mm,
proof of funds.
mm. Yeah, good points, Derek. Yeah, I think maybe sometimes it's the fact that maybe we aren't familiar with what all special steps are already pre-written.
True.
Sometimes it's like, oh, they haven't thought of this, but there are a ton of them in there.
Yes.
And then also, like you said, we have in-house attorneys here, along with preferred closing attorney Weissman Law Firm. So you're covered. Never feel like you have to, or maybe it's the first time that that special step has ever needed to be written. Check the library first. Check the library. Make sure you, really look through there and see if it's something that's already there. And then if you need to, reach out to us. But like Derek said, uh, I would avoid it at all cost. Personally, I would never ever write a special step that was invented by me, and I don't care how short or great I felt about it, and thought it was just a few words, but most of them, if not almost all of them, that you will ever really need are already written out.
Yeah. And if you're a new agent watching this video, or maybe even in another state, and you're wondering, well, why are they harping so much on special stipulations? Our contract is set up, the GAR contract, leading contract here, to state that special stipulations are king.
Mm,
So special stipulations prevail over everything else except an amendatory clause in an FHA or VA exhibit. So what you put in special stipulations is going to trump everything else. And so that's one reason too why I instruct agents to not to reiterate something that's already in the contract,
mhm,
because if you word it a little bit differently, then you could change the meaning. And as agents, we're filling in blanks, we're adding special stipulations, but we aren't attorneys,
mhm.
most of us, so we just want to be super careful.
Certainly, certainly, great points. Anything else to add to that top three?
No, I think those are really good, but I think they're great tips for, again, for new agents, but certainly agents of all experience levels make those mistakes. But I will say, as a new agent, if you make it, and it just seems like a lot of times as a new agent, your first deal is going to be with an agent that has more experience than you,
Hmm.
and you just don't want to be the one to make those mistakes or come off super green,
Hmm.
because it can impact those negotiations in that deal.
Certainly. So, side note for new agents, knowing the contracts, knowing the things we talked about here today, are really going to set you up for success. But just thinking about it from the professional side, like we've talked about today, we're here for you. If you have any questions, leave us any comments or suggestions on items that we might be able to help you with as a new agent specifically. And thank you, Derek. You've been listening to the Real Estate Game Plan Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for listening.